Hey guys, my name is Matumio, and today I have a review of the PKP light machine gun from Battlefield 4. I really wanted to test this weapon out. I really enjoyed it back in the previous game, and on those rare occasions when I actually would play as a support class, this was kind of my go-to weapon. I liked that it hit very hard, it was a very satisfying weapon to use, and I wanted to see how it would perform in the current game, and just kind of see how it would work. And I gotta say that after getting around 350 kills so far, and blazing through those kills like extremely quickly. This is a very satisfying weapon to use. It does have its faults, it does have its weaknesses, but if used correctly, it is an absolute blast. So the PKP is very similar to its Battlefield 3 counterpart, but it also has seen some upgrades, and one of those upgrades is its damage model. It's going to do 34 damage a shot up close or within 10 meters, and then after that, the damage is going to drop off to 25 damage a shot at long range. And so what this means for you, the player, the guy that's using the weapon, is that it's only going to take you 4 bullets to drop someone at all distances, and that is a very consistent weapon. There aren't a lot of weapons out there that are that consistent. So if they are 12 meters out, if they are 100 meters out, if you get 4 bullets into the enemy, you know that they are going to drop. And what's nice about this is that in the Battlefield 3 version, it only did 22 damage a shot at long range, and so it would require 5 bullets to drop someone at those distances. And so that's a fairly significant difference. I mean, you guys are first-person shooter fans, and you know that 1 bullet can mean the difference between life and death. And so to not have to require as many bullets to drop someone at a distance is a nice change, and a welcome change. The vertical recoil has also seen some improvements, and it is now down from a kick of 0.65 down to 0.55. And while this isn't going to change your life forever and completely revolutionize the LMGs, it does make it a little bit easier to manage that vertical when you do get into those extended firefights or when you're just kind of holding down the trigger. The horizontal, though, is exactly the same as it was in Battlefield 3. So it's got a kick of 0.4 to the left and a kick of 0.4 to the right, basically meaning that this weapon is very consistent. The downside of that, though, is that since it doesn't fly in a certain direction, you can't really compensate for the recoil. And so when you get into a firefight with someone, really all you can do is manage the vertical recoil and kind of hope that the weapon kicks in a certain direction, because you have no way of predicting where it's going to bounce. And so for close encounter combat, it makes it amazing. Like if you round the corner and you see a couple of guys, you just kind of hold down the trigger, manage the vertical, and the weapon's going to do all the work for you. But the further out the target goes, if you hold down the trigger, the weapon suffers from a lot of bullet spread at that point, and because you can't manage the recoil or compensate for it, it makes it very challenging to take those people out. The upside, though, is that the PKP has one of the best first shot recoil multipliers in the game. Like it is so small, it's phenomenal. And so what I would recommend when using this weapon is to tap fire like it's your job. And you guys will see throughout today's video, basically I am tap firing for all of my engagements, and really the only ones where I kind of hold down the trigger more is when things get a little bit up close and personal. And so if you've played Bad Company 2 or the Bad Company franchise, kind of take that type of play style where basically you tap fired for every single weapon, like tap firing was king, and transfer that mentality on over into the PKP. And when you do that, all of a sudden you're not dealing with a huge vertical. The 0.55 is still significant, and you're not having to deal as much with the horizontal as well, or at least it becomes a little bit more manageable. So to kind of round off the stats here, the weapon has a rounds per minute of 600, which is on the low end, but you also have to remember that it does have a very high damage model, and so if it was any higher than 600 RPM, it would probably be a little bit overpowered. And so if you do get into a firefight with someone who is using a high rounds per minute weapon, let's say like the AEK, you still have a fighting chance. If you're able to line up all of your shots, I mean, you do need to be very accurate with it, but if you're able to get like one headshot in there and then one body shot, they are going to drop very, very quickly. And there are a lot of times when my enemy had no time to react. They rounded the corner, I was set up, I was ready to go, one shot to the dome piece, and then one in the chest, and they were dead. So now that we kind of have a basic understanding of the weapon stats, what do they actually mean, and how is it going to impact the gameplay, and how do you use this weapon effectively? Well, the way that I kind of approached things was that I knew the weapon did very well up close and at medium distance, especially at medium distance because of that nice high damage model, but at the same time, it also can struggle in those circumstances because this is a light machine gun and you don't want to be trying to panic hip fire. Like if you're going against someone who is using an assault rifle or a carbine, you're probably not going to win that firefight, and also because of the slow rounds per minute, if you're not able to land all of your shots, if you go against someone who is using a high rate of fire weapon, you're not going to last very long as well. And so it makes for a very unique type of gameplay experience and also a very skillful gameplay experience because you need to be very accurate. And so my mentality was to flank as often as I could with this weapon and also to close the gap. And a really good example of this is what you guys are seeing on the screen right now. I'm playing on Paracel Storm. I noticed that one of the enemy squads is heading towards one of the objectives. I realized this, and instead of just trying to blindly fire at them at a distance where I have to deal with the high recoil, I positioned myself in a great vantage point where I'm at a medium distance. I've got a nice flank off on them, and then I just light all of them up. Like I destroy the entire squad. A couple of them try to retaliate, but because of the strengths of the weapon, I'm able to drop each of them individually very, very quickly, and then I save the point, and my team is now one step closer to winning that round. And it's that same type of mentality and playstyle that I tried to infuse into my gameplay, and when I did that, that's when I started to really rake in the kills and started to have the most success. And so now with all of that being said, what are some attachments that will complement this type of playstyle and really just the PKP in general? Well, the first slot is really going to just come down to personal preference. I prefer using the red dot sight, but that's mainly because I like to use them on pretty much every weapon in the game. I'm finding myself to be more accurate with them, but if you prefer something like the holographic scope or something that has a little bit more magnification, you know, more power to you. The second accessory slot I'd say is a toss-up between the magnifier or the laser sight. The laser sight isn't great because once again you don't want to be hip firing, but it's just a solid addition because if you do get into a tight spot, it is going to increase your hip fire accuracy. And then the magnifier is good if you want to use something like the bipod, which we'll get to here in a second, where it will give you a little bit more magnification so you guys can see those people at range. But where things get really interesting is when we take a look at the barrels. And I'd say it is between the muzzle brake, the compensator, or the heavy barrel. The muzzle brake is going to be great if you're having some trouble dealing with the vertical, but I would say that the pick is really between the compensator or the heavy barrel. The compensator is going to be great because it's going to reduce the horizontal recoil of the PKP, making it easier for you to be consistent with your shots. And so, at least for my play session, I thought that this was probably the best pick out of the three. But if you want to go for more long-range targets, I'd say the heavy barrel is a better bet. It's going to increase your accuracy by 50%, but at the same time, it's also going to cause you to have a much more vertical recoil. So also keep that in mind. But as for the final slot, or the underbarrel attachments, I would say it is between the bipod or the stubby grip. In my opinion, I'm not a huge fan of the bipod. I don't really like that type of gameplay. I like to be very mobile. As I said, I like to flank with the PKP, but if you enjoy hunkering down in one spot, you like to lock down long lanes and make sure that no enemy is going to cross a certain street, and you like to kind of support your team as a support class, then the bipod is an excellent choice, especially when you put it in tandem with the heavy barrel. It becomes way better at taking people out at a distance, but I would say the best pick here is the stubby grip. It is going to improve your accuracy with automatic fire by 15%, and as I've been saying, the automatic fire on this weapon isn't phenomenal, and so when you do need to kind of hold down the trigger, this is going to make things a little bit easier for you. So overall, the PKP is very interesting, and I'd say a very challenging weapon to use, but once you start to understand the playstyle, once you understand how to use it correctly, it can be very rewarding, and honestly, you can experience moments that you wouldn't have been able to achieve with other weapons out there. I mean, there are some flanks that I was able to perform and some kill streaks that I were able to go on simply because of the weapon itself. And so when you're able to pull that off and when you're able to master the weapon, you're in for an absolute blast. But that is about it for today's review, guys. I hope you enjoyed. If you have unlocked the PKP, what are your thoughts on it? Do you like it? Do you dislike it? Let me know down below in the comments section. But until tomorrow, guys, have a good one and take it easy.